What's going on, guys? GZTV here, back with another video, and we're going to continue the Sports Talk Mondays. About 10 to 15 to 20 minutes ago, we just had the conclusion of the Monday Night Football game between the Patriots and Bills. I actually watched this whole game. The Patriots outrun the Bills in a 4-point win in blustery conditions. The weather was awful, and Mac Jones was very hesitant to pass. And a matter of fact, only throwing 3 times, which is tied for second for most in the Super Bowl era, on a win. Mac Jones 2 for 3, 19 yards. Josh Allen, on the other hand, for those conditions, he passed 15 for 30. He passed 50% and managed to put up 145 for a touchdown. Rushing wise, man, Damian Harris, an absolute workhorse in this game. He gets 111 yards off of 10 carries and a touchdown. Very big one at that. Josh Allen having 39 yards, carrying off of 6 carries, pretty good for him. Receiving that one catch to Jonnu Smith was the best for the New England. And Stephon Diggs had a really good game, 4 catches for 51. Moving on, we're going to talk about the Thursday night game next, Cowboys-Saints. Defense lifts Dallas to a 10-point victory over a sinking Saints. I mean, their ship is pretty much sunk at this point. Their stat leaders are Taysom Hill and Deontay Harris. Before this season, who has really heard of them? But anyways, looking at the stats, Dak put up 238 for a touchdown and a pick, and actually a good game for Taysom Hill besides those 4 interceptions. He did put up 264 for 2 touchdowns, but those 4 picks. And the rushing yards, Tony Pollard, put up 7 carries for 71 yards and a touchdown. Really good game from him. He's one of the best backup running backs in the league. And freaking Taysom Hill, absolute workhorse of a game for him as well. 11 rushes, 101 yards. So he had a total of 365 yards. Enough yards to fill out the whole calendar year. And receiving wise, CeeDee Lamb had 7 catches for 89 yards. And Deontay Harris, great game. They lost, but he had 4 receptions for 96 and a touchdown. Moving on, next we have the Buccaneers and Falcons as the first Sunday game. We're going to talk about the dynamic duo of Tom Brady and Gronkowski lead the Bucs past the Falcons in a 13-point win. Tom Brady, 368 yards, 4 touchdowns, a pick. I mean, he's MVP at this point in the year. They're 9-3. They're now the second best team in the NFL. Matt Ryan put up 297. At least he didn't throw any picks this time. Leonard Fournette rushing wise, 44 yards, and Cordell Patterson had an impressive 78 yards, carrying Gage at 130 yards for Atlanta. Great game for him. Chris Godwin 143 yards, so really a great receiving battle. I was fit through. All right. Moving on into the next game, we had the Cardinals and the Bears.
The Bears got their cheeks.
Kyler Murray throws for 2 touchdowns, runs for 2 touchdowns. The Cardinals beat the Bears, and Andy Dalton, 4 interceptions. He had 229 yards for 2 touchdowns and 4 picks. Kyler Murray just 123 yards for 2 touchdowns. Rushing-wise, David Montgomery had 90 yards carrying and a touchdown. He was a workhorse for them. And James Conner, 75 yards rushing. Receiving-wise, James Conner also had a good game with 36 yards and a touchdown. D-Hop returned for the first time, but he wasn't the leading receiver this time around. And Grant of Chicago, he had a couple miracle plays thrown to him. He had 5 receptions for 62 yards and a touchdown. Just a struggling Bears team. Justin Fields is hurt or is in a safety protocol, I believe, so that's a rough time for them. Moving on, we have the Chargers and the Bengals, and up and down Chargers hold off the Bengals for a 19-point win. This is one of the games that I didn't really watch. I turned it off after a scoop and score touchdown for the Chargers by Tevon Campbell, actually. Justin Herbert threw 317 for 3 touchdowns and a pick. And Joe Burrow 300 for a touchdown and 2 picks. Running-wise, Eckler had 59 and a touchdown, and Mixon had 54 and a touchdown, and that fumble that really swung the momentum towards the Chargers' way. So the Chargers are back in the win column. They've had some streaky games. They pulled it off. Great receiving battle between Mike Williams and T. Higgins. T. Higgins 138 for a touchdown, and he's starting to become the Bengals' leading target. And Mike Williams, of course, also for the Chargers becoming their lead target with Keenan Allen going out with COVID protocol. So that's a big issue for the Chargers, but they're maintaining a 7-5 record. Justin Herbert is having one of the most improved seasons out of anybody this year. There was that award, Herbert, man. Moving on to Vikings and Lions. The Lions are winless no more. They topped the Vikings by 2 for their first W in week 13. 13 weeks in, and that's how long it took for Dan Campbell and the Lions to get a win. You know, Kirk Cousins, pretty good
I had that entire week off still.
Pretty good games for the quarterbacks. You know, 340 for 2 touchdowns by Goff. Obviously better than Jared Goff. Or for Cousins. Obviously better than Jared Goff. Who isn't? Jared Goff had 296 for 3 touchdowns and a pick. Alexander Madison, 90 yards and a touchdown with Dalvin Cook out. He is killing it. Jamal Williams, the former Packer, 71 yards. And Amon-Ra St. Brown had 86 yards for a touchdown, including a clutch catch to put them in position. The clutch catch to win the game, actually, and Justin Jefferson, a casual 182 yards and a touchdown. Couldn't get the win, but still another great game for Justin Jefferson. Makes his case. It's one of the best receivers in the NFL. Moving on to Giants and Dolphins. The streak continues. Tua and the Dolphins hold off the Giants. They win by 11. Pretty sloppy game for the Dolphins. You know, they could have got way more going on. Tagovailoa played good. He had 244 for 2 touchdowns. But when you're playing Mike Glennon, you can't really be impressed by a win. I mean, that quarterback is just from the dumps.
I'll come home the 14th.
187 yards passing and an interception for him on the night. Saquon had 55 carries for 11. 55 yards for 11 carries, very impressive for him. That's one of his more consistent performances, more efficient performances of the year. Gaskin, 44 yards.
I literally told you the last 4 times you asked.
Evan Ingram, 4 catches, 61 yards. He got rocked on one of the plays. Jalen Waddle, 9 receptions, 90 yards. You know, that chemistry between him and Tua is definitely developing here in Miami, and Miami fans should be hopeful for a great season for them. Moving on to Eagles and Jets. Gardner Minshew steps in. Minshew magic. That man looks cracked out of his mind. Eagles score on their first 7 drives to beat the Jets. Gardner Minshew, 242, 2 touchdowns. Just the definition of lighting it up. Zach Wilson actually didn't have a bad game. 226 for 2 touchdowns and a pick. But Miles Sanders, for the first time in some time for Philadelphia, with Jalen Hurts out with that run, that extra run force out, you know he's going to come out and put up 24 carries for 120. And Tevin Coleman.
26 and a half days off.
Tevin Coleman's been a backup running back for most of his career with guys like the Niners, and he came out and got 11 carries for 58 yards. Dallas Goedert, amazing game, 6 catches, 105 at 2 touchdowns. Receiving wise, Elijah Moore, 6 catches, 77 yards, a touchdown. So a pretty solid game there. I mean, the Jets are putting up some decent efforts over the last few weeks, but it's just not enough there against Gardner Minshew. Moving on, we have the Colts and the Texans. Jonathan Taylor's 2-touchdown day helps the Colts rout the woeful Texans by 31. Now, obviously, all those scandals that have happened with Winston, you know, they lost D-Hop, they lost J.J. Watt, all sorts of players are gone from their roster. And man, it's just been a tragic season for this Texans squad. I mean, they are the second worst team in the NFL behind Detroit. Detroit is still the worst, even after the win. Carson Wentz had 158 for a touchdown. I mean, that's all you have to do to beat the Texans. Jonathan Taylor, pretty much a stat-padding week from him, 143 for 2 TDs. Pittman had 77 yards. I don't even know if I want to talk about Houston's side of the ball. You know, Brandon Cooks, 38 receiving yards. Rex Burkhead, former fullback for the Patriots. They're using a fullback as a running back. 30 yards rushing. David Mills, 49 yards off of 6 for 14. So, man, just woeful. They said it best. Moving on to Washington Raiders. Very good game. I watched most of this one. Washington rallies. Washington rallies for the 4th straight win. They win by 2 over the Raiders. Heineke and Carr, pretty good matchup there. I would say Carr played a little better. Maybe not, though. Heineke did throw 23 for 30. Had 196. 2 touchdowns and a pick. Derek Carr, 249 yards passing there.
Dear Lord, thank you.
Turn your mic volume.
Hold on 1 second. As usual, thank you for dialing. Also, take me Lord.
Anyways, I don't know if the mic volume's getting any better there. We'll have to see. I don't know what's going on with my phone anyways. Jeez Louise. Sorry. We'll get it back in a second. Yeah, we were talking about Washington and the Niners. Washington rallies for the 4th straight win. Oh, we already talked about that. Heineke 196, 2 touchdowns and a pick, and Derek Carr 249. Rushing-wise, Antonio Gibson had 88 yards, and Josh Jacobs had 52 with a touchdown. Receiving-wise, Logan Thomas, 3 receptions, 48 yards, a touchdown, including some pretty good catches. That man had some catches that didn't count that game that were awesome. And Hunter Renfrow, man, what an underrated receiver he's becoming out of Clemson. 102 yards receiving off of 9 catches. You got to be impressed by that as a Raiders fan. Next is Jaguars, Rams. LA Rams snap a 3-game lose streak. They roll over Jacksonville, beaten by 30. What'd you expect? This is the big break they needed. Trevor Lawrence throwing 145, Stafford throwing 295 for 3 touchdowns. Rushing-wise, Carlos Hyde only had 24 yards for a touchdown, and Sony Michel, the former Patriot, put up 120 and a touchdown. Treadwell, the former Vikings player, put up 62, and Cooper Kupp, of course, another casual 129 for a touchdown week for him. Comes very easy for him. Moving on, Ravens, Steelers. The gamble doesn't pay off for the Ravens in the loss to the Steelers. They go for 2, and they lose the game off of that. Lamar Jackson had 253 for a touchdown and a pick, and Ben Roethlisberger had 236 for 2 touchdowns. So honestly, another good game for Roethlisberger. Running-wise, Lamar Jackson, you guessed it, was the leading running back, 55 yards rushing, and Najee Harris had 71. The rookie had some pretty good plays. Hollywood Brown was the leading receiver with 55, and Deontay Johnson, who has been their best receiver for ever since the Juju Smith-Schuster injury, he had 105 for 2 touchdowns. Moving on to 49ers and Seahawks. Seahawks hold on late for a wild 7-point win over the Niners. Garoppolo threw 299 for 2 touchdowns and 2 picks. Russell Wilson threw for 231, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. Homer, he had like this fake punt touchdown, so he had 3 carries for 80 yards and a touchdown. And Elijah Mitchell had 66 for a TD. George Kittle had his best game of the year by far, 9 catches, 181, and 2 touchdowns. He's getting back to what he was last year and during their Super Bowl run. Tyler Lockett had a great catch on Josh Norman. He put up 68 for a touchdown. Final game is that Sunday night game. Chiefs keep AFC West lead with a 13-point win over the Broncos. This was pretty much to keep the AFC West in their favor. Patrick Mahomes put up 184 and a pick. Teddy Bridgewater put up 257 for a touchdown and 2 picks. And running-wise, Edwards-Helaire had 54. And Javonte Williams had 102 yards. Receiving-wise, Damian Williams had 60 yards receiving, and Jerry Jeudy had 77 yards receiving. So that is going to do it. Bruh. This man been ripping ass all